This episode is brought to you by Nordstrom. Summer's almost out and fall's calling. Luckily, Nordstrom has everything you need for the season ahead, all under $100. Discover new arrivals from your favorite brands like Mango, Princess Polly, Wave, Free People, BDG, and more. Whether you're planning a last-minute getaway, heading back to class, or refreshing your office looks, you'll find the latest trends and beauty must-haves without breaking your budget. It's easy, too, with free shipping, free returns, and in-store order pickup. Shop today, in stores, and at Nordstrom.com.
Tires matter. They're the only part of your vehicle that touches the road. Tread confidently with new tires from Tire Rack. Whether you're looking for expert recommendations or know exactly what you want, Tire Rack makes it easy. Fast, free shipping, free road hazard protection, convenient installation options, and the best selection of Yokohama tires. Go to TireRack.com to see their Yokohama test results, tire ratings, and reviews, and be sure to check out all the special offers. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
I'm 32, juggling family, working full-time, and earning a bachelor's degree. At University of Phoenix, I earn career-relevant skills with every 5-week course. Skills I can use now, not just after graduation.
Earn skills in weeks, not years. Visit phoenix.edu.
This episode is brought to you by Buffalo Trace Distillery. Powerful yet smooth. Contained but never tame. Proudly going their own way, but never going alone. This is the spirit inside Buffalo Trace Bourbon. Made at Buffalo Trace Distillery, the world's most award-winning distillery. Buffalo Trace is always perfectly untamed. Distilled, aged, and bottled by Buffalo Trace Distillery, Franklin County, Kentucky. 90 proof, 45% alcohol by volume. Learn more at buffalotracedistillery.com. Please drink responsibly.
Hello, everybody. This is Tony Ruggiero here. Thanks for tuning in, downloading, and listening to The Tour Coach. We're rolling through another crazy summer right now, another crazy season. There's lots of golf, lots of guys playing, lots of camps, lots of retreats, lots of travel. You know what that means? It means lots of great content coming to you. So thank you, whether you're a golf instructor, like so many folks that reach out and listen to this podcast, or you're an aspiring golfer, somebody just loves learning about the game, loves learning about how to get better. Thanks for taking the time to listen to The Tour Coach, because we've got lots of great content coming for you, okay? And if you like The Tour Coach, you're going to love Pro Work on YouTube. I want to remind all of you, if you haven't seen it, go to Bushnell Golf on YouTube or go to @TheDewSweeper on my YouTube channel and listen to, watch Inside the Ropes, behind the scenes with myself, Colby Touye, Mark Hackett, and a host of others. And you'll see what it's like to be a player of all different abilities, and watch how our team approach goes behind the scenes, inside the ropes, to find out exactly what the magic that your golf swing needs to pick up 10, 15, 20 yards or lower your handicap or get all the way out onto the PGA Tour. It's all there for you on Pro Work, just like it is here on The Tour Coach. So thanks for listening. We've got some great content coming. We've got some great discussions, some great roundtables, and some great guests coming your way this summer and this season here on The Tour Coach. And I couldn't do this Tour Coach without the following sponsors. They've been loyal to me. I'm loyal to them. I think it's one of the missing things in instruction and in our world, people that stick together, and I think that's why we've all had so much success. I've got to thank the folks at Bushnell Golf for their support and their sponsorship of this show, my teaching, as well as the Pro Work series. Vineyard Vines and the folks there, unbelievable. They keep all the dew sweepers looking good, myself as good as you can, and all of the folks at our retreats, and especially Shrixon and Cleveland Golf, Chip Holcomb, Eddie Dry, and all of the folks there. I mean, we couldn't do it without it. It's over 20 years I've been with Shrixon Cleveland Golf. I'm not going anywhere without that. Mason Prang and the folks over there in California take such good care of us. They've got the best product that you can find anywhere. So special thanks to Shrixon Cleveland Golf. And then finally, my good friend Mitch McConnell and the folks at McConnell Automotive, Buick GMC here in Mobile, and Buick GMC for sponsoring the radio and everything that we've been going on for all of these years. So we've got great sponsors, we've got great partners, and we're going to give you great content that's going to help all of you play better, enjoy the game better, or understand how to teach it and communicate it better. Sit back, get yourself a beverage, and enjoy The Tour Coach. And then when you get a chance, go check out Pro Work on my YouTube. You'll be glad you did. What part of LA are we in, Brady?
We are in basically West LA, pretty much West LA.
West LA. Good friend Eric Larson here. Henry Diana caddying out there at the U.S. Open this week. We've got Brady Riggs, Justin Parsons, Matt Rudy from Golf Digest, Jackson Koert, our faithful sidekick, and one of the great young teachers in the game. I keep saying that about him, Matt, and at some point he's going to be sold that he's not a young teacher. But anyways, we're here for U.S. Open week, and we're kicking this off. We're going to talk this episode here. We're going to talk about prep. So let's start with you, JP, because you've got the most people in the field of anybody at this table. How many do you have this now, 16, 17?
We've got Harris English, Brian Harmon, and Luke List. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, it's a very different golf course. We're still trying to work out, whether it's going to favour bombers, whether it's going to favour iron players. There's going to be a lot of long-range putting. There's a lot going on with the golf course, and I think even after 2 days, we're still trying to figure out exactly who it's going to favour. And Eric, you and I are trying to figure out with Harris some of his strategies. What do you think it's turned out to be?
Well, every U.S. Open course is very difficult. I've never been to this place before, so it's kind of hard to analyze what it was before and what it is now. But I think we've got to hit a lot of drivers around here. The rough's pretty penal in a lot of spots. The par threes are very difficult.
Rough's different, though. Like, it's not like the wing foot deal where if you just, you missed it by a foot. Like, the fairways are kind of generous, though, for U.S. Open, didn't you think?
They're very generous, but there's certain spots, like on the right side of was it number 5 today? We were like in by a foot and we had no shot. So, they're spotty. The course is going to play very difficult.
They can get it firm, I think, as well. I think it's going to firm up.
I think it's going to firm up. You got to take advantage of certain holes. But if you can play the par threes in a good number, I think those are going to be key, and take advantage of some of the shorter holes.
HD with Tom Hoagie this week. Great ball striker. Everybody knows he's a great ball striker. Also, he travels coach because Jackson flew out here with him on a Delta flight or American flight, and they were both coached together. Talk about your prep, things you're looking for out of a player this week.
Oh, it's obviously a unique Open. With the fairways being more generous and stuff like that. So we're doing a lot more prep on the par threes and more of the scoring holes. I think it's going to be the difference in the championship. Par fives are going to be gettable for most of the players, but I think the par threes are going to be key to win this championship, no doubt. So, I'll be curious to see the winning score and how the winner is going to play the par threes, in my opinion.
I think it's amazing that they've come up with a way to make a par 3 that could play 78 yards brutal, right, where you actually have to conceivably play away from the flag on a 78-yard hole. That's got to be a first. Colin Morikawa played it in the Pac-12, one of the Pac-12 tournaments, and he said there was about 1.5 foot landing area, practically speaking, if you're going to go at the hole. So I like it when the USGA creates choices and they create tiers of holes where some are gettable, some are hard. When we had stretches of time where it was just a brutal test where you're hitting it down a sidewalk down the middle of the fairway, and I don't think that tested the limits of somebody's game. It just tested who could hit boring shots. I like to see choices and chances and risks, and if you make a poor choice or a poor swing, you get penalized.
I think I said earlier when we first got back to the house, like, to me, there wasn't one type of player that this thing's set up for. There's like a lot of ways. I've only walked the back 9 today. I got in yesterday after Ben had already finished playing. But there's a lot of different angles and ways to play this golf course. And JP, you said it's going to get firmer and faster. So I think everybody's going to hit it far enough.
Sure, I agree.
Right? In fact, Ben hit a 3-wood off a par 5 today because of the way it runs out and to get around a bunker. So, the old going back to the wing foot, where Bryson just hammered it down there, I don't know that you need to do that. I think the interesting thing is, so if you look at it and you're a coach or you're a teacher, like there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different types of players that you feel like you have a chance where I don't know that every major you show up at and every U.S. Open you show up, like you feel like you always tell your player you got a chance. But like every player, you feel like, you know, there's a route for most players out here, I think, if you've got certain strong suits. Brady, you've been here in L.A. for a gazillion years. Obviously been out of L.A., coached a bunch of great players. What are your thoughts?
It's really different than Riviera. I mean, that's one of the things that strikes you right away because the grass is so different. You know, the Bermuda's firm, the greens are great, they're not going to hold a lot. And the fairways, while they're generous, they're slanted a lot, you know, so it could be that they're half as small or half as wide as they are. You know, you're gonna have to land on the correct half of the fairway, and if they get really, really firm, you almost have to cut them into the side slopes, kind of like you have to at like 17 Olympic Club, because they will run into the rough. If your curve is matching the fairway, it's going to be difficult to hold the fairway as the week goes on and things firm up. And the rough's pretty spotty in places. Like it could be worse. Like 11 left long and 11 isn't as long down there as it could be. I mean, you can catch a really, really good lie down there. So that's going to be interesting to see guys hit similar shots and have two completely different results just by the luck of the draw, which is kind of cool in a way. You know, it keeps it a bit more rub of the green. But it should be really fun as the week progresses. I think course can get harder.
And go ahead.
Isn't that where, I mean, that's kind of where it's been super dry here. So the dryness makes the fairways green. There's a challenge keeping it in the fairway, but the dryness is probably given some breaks in the rough. Yeah, it's not as full as it could have been if you had a normal spring.
Right. I'd say it was very, very wet winter, and we've had very mild conditions in the spring and the early summer. So instead of the sun being out and making everything grow, it hasn't been as warm as it usually would be. So it could have been a lot thicker with the rough this week. So if it firms out like it did this afternoon, it could be really fun.
I thought this afternoon I wasn't out there yesterday, but from the time we got there this morning to the time from the practice green and the greens I was around till we walked off the golf course at fairly close to 6 o'clock this evening, that golf course had changed a lot from the time we teed off. The firmness and how the greens were. And, you know, the big thing to me was, like, I didn't think it was very penal off the tee. You could get unlucky in spots, and there's a lot of room. But, like, the rough around the greens was incredibly penal, and you could get some lies that are where you can't get it to the green almost and not be very far off the green, you know. And so if the greens get very firm, like, was looking at pin placements and stuff like, well, this could easily – on a firm green, hop through and get into a really crappy lie that there's not much to do with. HT, start with you, and then we'll go to Eric. Like, when you're going around the golf course with a player and you watch the golf course changing like it did today, absolutely, what are you guys talking about?
Well, that exact point. I mean, obviously, I was bringing up earlier about the par 3. So, I mean, I think 15 is going to be intriguing as the week goes on, obviously, and then especially on the weekend. So that shot, and, you know, when they decide to play the 78-yard shot or roughly that, you know, awesome. It's going to be incredible. So, I mean, epic for a U.S. Open. So, and it'll be interesting to see how that'll change the championship or how it'll dictate the championship. So, obviously it'll evolve, and I think it still lends itself, the golf course, into a high ball hitter coming in. You know, I think Scheffler will have an advantage. You know, a player that can still flight the ball that high because the greens are that penal and that severe and that contoured. So I think it still lends to a player that is more of a high ball hitter, in my opinion.
Well, thinking about this course and any U.S. Open course, you have to be on your game, all facets. And we didn't even talk about putting and short game around the greens. And when Harris played really well at Winged Foot, I thought his short game was really on point. And he putted very well that week, and he finished fourth there. And he was fortunate to finish third at Torrey Pines. And the same thing. You're not going to be able to be really good at one thing and not good at the other. You've got to be really good at all of them and to contend at this tournament. And obviously, there's a lot of bad spots around these greens, as we were talking about. So I think it's going to be a difficult task. I'm looking forward to the challenge with Harris, and his team, JP, and come up with a game plan like we have in the past, and hopefully we can stick to it.
And before to go to you, JP, like you talked today about how we were riding, I think, to get my prescriptions, and you talked about how, Harris is a conservative player, but that makes him play good U.S. Opens and golf. Talk about that for a minute, because I also think that while that suits him, there's probably players that excludes, right? Like that have a hard – I mean, there's just golfers that don't play well at U.S. Opens, that don't play well under those things. So talk about what you think makes him a good U.S. Open player.
I think when you have a conservative strategy and you don't do it very well, it writes you off completely. And then, we talked about that a little bit, Eric, at Oak Hill. We put together a fairly conservative strategy, didn't execute very well, and that really puts you behind the 8 ball. But here I think the rough is so, it's unpredictable. I'm watching people go in the rough and they're 2 yards in the rough and the ball's almost unplayable. They're 5 yards in the rough, it's okay. So, I think it will still benefit people who are willing to take a bit of a chance. I think it's going to benefit people who are willing to take a chance off the tee. Brian Harmon's a very good driver of the golf ball. He started getting it on a wee bit of a string tonight. I think the fairways are a lot narrower, like you alluded to, that, if you can get the right shape and you make sure it's not running down and running into the rough, I think that's a big deal for this place, because, the green complexes are guarded at the front a lot. So if you're in the rough, it's going to be difficult to, run it in. Wing foot, we watched Bryson run it into the greens a lot and knock it up to the front edge. A lot of the links courses in Ireland, you'd knock it on the front edge, 2-putt and get out of there. I think it's going to be harder to do that here. So I'm beginning to think it's a positional kind of thing off the tee, but we shall see. I'm often wrong.
I think another interesting thing too is the physical plant, the footprint of this place is not enormous, and they can't let in some of the same numbers of fans that they do at other U.S. Open venues. And I just don't think you're going to get the trampling effect on the rough. And Bryson bombed it at Wingfoot. The strategy there was he could hit it in some places where gallery had been a lot. And that was actually part of the strategy. If you miss 400 yards downrange where you have a chance in spectator areas. And I just don't know if that's going to be as much of a factor this week, because I just don't think there's the same number of people that are going to be walking around and creating some of that.
And that Bermuda's not going to react the way that the rough at Wingfoot.
Right. I thought it was interesting, how the Bermuda rough played. And so, Brady, let's talk. You walked around out there today. Talk a little bit about what you saw and some of the players you watched and what you think is going to go happen.
Well, I've heard from players, I'd love to hear your guys' take on it, is that the bunkers they're soft. So fairway bunkers are soft, greenside bunkers are soft. That changes some of the calculus. I mean, missing a green anywhere near the bunker that's not in the bunker this week, you'd think would be worse than being in the bunker because of all the fescue, but if they're soft around the greens, that's going to make it tough. And if the fairway bunkers are soft too, that's going to make it interesting. It makes the fairways tighter in a way, because you can't just knock it in there and hit it out like it's nothing. You may have a price to pay from that. So I think that'll be interesting. I don't know. You guys were out there today in and out of the bunkers.
I agree 100%. The bunkers are tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a 5-iron 18 yesterday and it plugged. I mean, you'd never think a 5-iron into a hole would plug in a bunker, but it sits down pretty good in certain spots as well. So.
And it's pretty soft all the way around, right?
Yeah.
It's not just going to roll down into a flat at all.
No. You saw some funky lies in there. Jackson, you've been handling short game this week with Ben. Talk about some of the stuff you guys saw as you prepared around the greens, chipping and pitching. I mean, there's some gnarly stuff around those greens. It almost looks like native grasses, if you will, kind of around the bunkers and stuff where I was just looking today as I was watching, where I was seeing where people were thinking pins would be. And as they get firm, as you know they will, you could see a ball taking 2 hops, barely skipping up into that stuff where you've got a pretty good downslope. Yes, Matt, I'll take more wine. Where you could barely skip through and then just have something that's impossible to get back down. How are you guys handling some of the stuff with short game? And hopefully you're handling it well, because we need you.
There are just a bunch of different conditions, right? Around the greens you can have the tight, firm grass, and then you can throw it in the Bermuda, like JP was talking, 2 yards off the green, and it sit down. You can also have it sit down 15 yards off the green, or be up, and then you had the grass around the bunkers that was way different than the Bermuda. And then you have the bunker, so all of a sudden you've got 4 or 5 different situations that you need to be prepared for, short game wise. I think the greens has surprised me a little bit with the size, and I think based on how you can approach it from some of the fairways, we were talking about lag putting. I think that'll be a huge priority over 4 days with the golf course changing and how it runs out from the fairways. I think there's going to be a lot of like second shots chasing up short of the green or onto the green, and then you've got a massive putt across the green. So I think the short game has to be pretty diverse, and then I'm going to expect a lot of good lag putting, when you see somebody coming down the stretch on Sunday.
That's really a good point about diverse short game, and I think if I have one complaint broadly about U.S. Open / USGA setups is when the rough gets too out of control around the green, it takes away diversity of short game and makes it just kind of a hit and hope situation. I think one of the genius elements about, say, Pinehurst is when you have shaved runoff areas and you have more uniform conditions. They're very difficult shots, but you have to demonstrate technical skill at hitting those shots. And when you get into some of those bonkers lies around the green, it's mostly just, hopefully I can hit the ball and maybe it'll go somewhere. And to me, that detracts from the skill element and makes it much more of a risk of a luck element.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
And I don't particularly like that.
I'm fortunate to be working. I work for Harris and Brian Harmon, particularly Brian, who's probably one of the better short games on tour. And I could throw 6 golf balls into similar situations just off the green, even up at that short game area, and he's going to struggle to understand exactly how it's going to come out. And I don't think that's part and parcel of his technique. That's just part of the way the golf course is playing. So to your point, that mitigates the skill a little bit of what those fellas can do around the greens.
It steals his advantage
a little bit. Yeah,
I just was amazed at how difficult the lies could get and how different they could be from like one pace to the other. No question. And so we talked about this. Jackson and I talked about this on actually our ride to pick JP up. Was one of the things I was going to stress to Ben was that I think it's important to understand that there's going to be times it's okay to hit it to 20 feet and understand that you probably going to make a bogey. Because I watched, not just Ben, but I watched a bunch of players out there. One of them, is a favorite, Cameron, and hit a bunch of shots around the green where they thought they were going to hit good shots and they didn't even get them to the green from lies, where you're easily going to make a bogey at best, but you could turn it into a 6 or a 7 if you're not careful. And we talked about this. I think it's really important to understand that it's okay to make bogeys, and that sometimes your best play is hitting it to 20 feet, chopping it out there, trying to make a 20-footer, and if not, you walk away with a bogey. But because I also thought, compared to Winged Foot, where I didn't think there were very many birdie Eli, y'all played so good there, and I was with Lucas at the time, and he played great, but there weren't a ton of holes where you just said, we're probably going to get birdie here, But I thought there's opportunities out here. If you drive it good and you hit some good shots, there's going to be some birdie opportunities. But if you miss it in the wrong place, I think you got to be willing to take bogey, or you can turn it into 6 or 7 in a heartbeat.
So Tony, what you're saying is your players are going to hit the ball in the fairway, hit the ball onto the green, and hold the putts.
That's all we're trying to do, JP. I mean, I told Ben today, I don't even know why we're practicing chipping. We're going to hit 72 greens.
That's why they pay the big dollar.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm killing it, right? Right?
Love it.
I mean, what are you doing? Why are you working on chipping if you're such a good damn swing coach? Why are you working on chipping? I'm working on tap-ins. I had to coach a kid today on how to tip the hat and then get it out of the hole. I mean,
so you're working on the celebration?
Are you not working on this? We'll have a little seminar later. I'm selling the seminars online.
Do you teach your guy to leave a clean spot on the sleeve, so if things go well the first couple of days, you can plop a sponsor on there?
Yeah, we do Velcro sponsors, and I rotate them between holes. And I don't know a good agent, but if there was one out there, I would highly suggest you have – I mean, that's not being mean, is it?
It's all holograms now.
Right. I would have patches with Velcro sponsors. And like when my guy got in a bunker and he got up and down, boom, Waste Management comes right in and you put that thing before he putts, right?
You need a pit crew.
Right.
Somebody run out and stick it up.
What about like temperature gets high and dude, like they show he's got a bunch of butt sweat. Next thing you know, dude wipes is on the sleeve. I mean,
why not just put it across the back of his pants?
Am I the only guy that's thinking outside the box here, Matt? I should start my own agency. I've talked about that. Tom Lovelady's going to come run this thing for me, but we need an investor if anybody's listening.
I think you should ask the Public Investment Fund.
The PIF, I don't want to get into. I don't want to get anything stirred up because I know Jay's in the hospital, but I do. The PIF is thinking about kind of sponsoring the dew sweepers, and we're fairly involved. We're fairly far down the road with this.
As we drink a glass of wine.
My seventh. Yes. I'm going to probably.
Cruise juice.
I'm going to probably. And I want to give a special shout out to Cheech Chong's Cruise Cheese right here. Going public soon.
You just locked that PIF endorsement down right there.
And that's right up their alley. Right up their alley. HD, you got to bail me out here. HD, you got to bail me out. So, what are you guys going to do to prepare tomorrow?
Just still the same stuff. I mean, yes. Just still, like I said, I think we mentioned it earlier before. I mean, obviously, I think lag putting, the golf course evolving, changing, drying out. It'll be interesting how much the USGA lets the golf course go and how severe they, don't water. So.
Good, right?
Yes. Brady is.
The weather's going to be good. I mean, if anybody's complaining this week, they should just end their career. It's going to be 72, a little marine layer, maybe in the morning.
It's a little chilly in the morning for me.
I understand.
Need a bath.
Brady, your prediction since you're from here, what do you think? What's your guess on the USGA's way they're going to go about the golf course and how it's going to evolve?
Yeah, but HD is on podcast.
Thanks for teaming me up. I really appreciate it. I think Thursday, Friday, they'll keep it pretty under control with all the players out there. And then if they're going to let it get spicy, it'll be on the weekend when there's not as many people on the golf course and try and give people a challenge on the weekend. But I don't think, 10 was interesting today because I'm sure you guys, if you hit it on the right side of that fairway, even the middle of the fairway, it kind of hung up.
Right.
Yes.
It didn't come.
And they have the mesh down on the left side of the fairway because that ball should be going left.
Absolutely.
So the fact that balls are still hanging up on that hole is pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't imagine that by Saturday that ball's not going down into the left side. If you draw that thing off that tee, it should end up in the rough on the left.
Right.
And that's where you have to have control of the tee. You don't just have to hit it where you are aiming, but you kind of need to hit it with the right shape.
Right.
What you guys said was it's not necessarily just bombing it out there.
Sure.
You're better off hitting it 250, 260 with the right shape and holding the fairway than you are hitting it 310.
No question.
And losing control.
Yeah.
Then you're just gambling with the result a lot. So
absolutely.
What you said about it being Scheffler's kind of vibe, higher.
Jason Day. Jason Day is a high ball hitter, and Bryson.
It can be that the guy hits the most greens because short game is sort of a variable this week that you don't have a lot of control of. I mean, if you hit a lot of greens, you can have an excellent chance this week.
Right.
You don't have to kill it, but you need to be in control.
I agree.
What you take is, as Taz, wouldn't you guys want to see your player hit the middle of every par 3 for 4 days?
No question. I mean, that's
holes, right? If they hit 20 greens in reg on the par 3, you take it right
yeah, because that's where my mind is racing a little bit. Trying to analyze the golf course and see, asking you or guessing how the golf course is going to evolve. And I think the par 3s, like I said, are in my opinion going to tell the difference in the championship. I really do. I think there's enough birdie holes where the leaders, the great players, are going to make birdie and score. But the par 3s, it's going to come down to the par 3s.
Matthew?
Well, I think the USGA's too gotten away from the ridiculous tradition of killing the greens on the weekend, where if you had a U.S. Open on Long Island, the greens were purple on Saturday or Sunday, and it was embarrassing because you're hitting it on concrete. So I do think that they've discovered that if there is some playability on the golf course and the greens are still alive, that it does reward skill instead of making it a sort of a shuffleboard contest on the weekend. So I think this is set up if they can keep control of the golf course, which is not always a given, and they can keep it on that edge of, where players can keep control of the ball and hit shots on purpose that produce good opportunities. What were we talking about before? 6 under, 7 under? I think that looks like the score, in my opinion. There's some gettable holes, there's some places for trouble, but I think that's the right balance of birdies and bogeys and excitement and boring golf.
All right, I'm going to go back to you. Start with you. We'll go around the table here to wrap this thing up. 3 players you think are going to be in the mix come Sunday.
I mean, I love Brooks Koepka. I mean, we talked about that earlier in the night. The health and the confidence. I mean, if I were picking the winner, that's the guy I'm picking. I love the way Scotty plays. The putting stuff with Scotty is disturbing. I think when you're messing around with a different putter on a Tuesday of U.S. Open week, that's a little bit of a warning sign for me. But and I think Jon Rahm's played relatively poorly for a couple weeks. It makes it easy to forget how good he's been for the last 8 months. So I'm going to go Brooks and Jon Rahm. With half Scotty. That's
a 2. You've given us 2.5 people. But, I mean, Rahm's kind of big. Scotty's big guys. Well,
I didn't really got on a limb there, did I?
Do mine. JP, I'm the host. I don't.
And I'll just say this. We were another bet we were talking about early. If you're going to take a guy who hits it far enough, plays hard golf courses well, Patrick Harrington is an old guy who hits it far. He plays hard golf courses well. If you're going to bet a top 20, that's a pretty good top 20.
If we had a casino back in this radio show and podcast, which we should, and we're open for purchase, right? I'm just throwing that out there. If this needed to be the MGM per se, right? PIF tip of the week, you would put Padraig Harrington. Yes. Like if somebody was going to bet $600 billion on the guy that's going to play good this week, you would pick Padraig Harrington. My plays of the week. I really for some reason, I like Morikawa because he grew up here, around here. He's a really good iron player. Hadn't played necessarily great. We talked about it earlier. I think everybody's pulling for Homa, but I don't think Homa's form has been as good coming in. So I like Morikawa. I like Koepka too. I mean, I just think Brooks is playing really good. And there's a little part of me that for some reason thinks DJ might play good this week. And then I've got to go with Ben Carr, Harris English, and Tom Hoagie. Because their people are sitting at our table. And we promise that if somebody out of this house won, we'll do it again next year, and I enjoy this group. HD, what are your picks?
Well, I'm partial to Tom Hoagie this week. But other than Tom, the 3 players I definitely would take would be Scotty, Brooks, and I'm going to throw a long shot in there, and I'm going to throw Bryson DeChambeau in there this week. I think
that's the real piff of the week.
I just think Bryson he showed a lot of form at Rochester, and I think this golf course lends a little bit more to his strengths, and I think that he might be dangerous here.
Good call on that. Eli?
Well, like HD, I'm definitely biased towards my player, Harris English.
As you should.
My number 1 pick. It's kind of hard to rule out Brooks Koepka. Obviously, he's going to be a force. But my other pick is Xander Schauffele. I think Xander.
Yeah.
He's got a great short game. I think he's about ready to rise to the occasion.
Another California guy. And he's not a.
He's up there in the piff tip of the week.
Yep. And
piff of the week. Piff of the week.
Said, if Harris doesn't finish number 1, Brooks or Xander.
That's good.
JP.
I can't wait to hear JP's picks. These will be so politically correct.
Sound like your late night radio host voice.
Why did I feel like I was sitting with Jay Leno during that? You got to be a DJ.
I like people who can really control the ball. Like I was watching. I was speaking to Nick Doherty and Radar today. And we were looking at it, just thought this would be so much up Tiger's alley, this golf course, like shaping it off the tee, holding the fairways, gets harder, like loads of lag putting, like you guys are talking about. Lag putting aside, I know what Sergio Garcia is like, and I know that he would really fancy this type of challenge.
Wow.
I know he was very bullish about getting into the tournament, and he's obviously an incredible ball striker and someone who can really control the ball off the tee. My allegiances are, of course, to Harris, Brian, Luke List. Luke's playing really good at the moment. He's got that little fairway driver thing he's got going, and he can shape it both ways, tees it up a little bit higher, turns it, moves it, in and around. Harris is looking good. Brian's driving the golf ball better. So hopefully one of those four. 3 out of the 4 would be right up my alley, but I've always been an admirer of Sergio Garcia and his ball striking.
Perfect. Brady?
I will go, if Scheffler couldn't putt worse than he's been putting, and nobody's hit it better than he has, maybe historically, only VJ one time in a tournament, so I'll go with Scheffler because he can't. If he just putts a little better, he's going to be right there for sure. And then I kind of like Terrell Hatton this week.
Oh.
He's been pretty consistent.
That's a good one.
Hard golf courses lately. And then my other one is Ricky because he's had a very consistent year in all the majors and big tournaments as well. So
I could see Ricky playing well here too.
And Spieth shouldn't be discounted. But
No.
I can only get 3. So
you could have 4. Okay. We like you. We like you.
It is a home game for me.
All right, let's wrap it up with Jackson. Jackson, give us your picks, and obviously you got to put Ben Carr up there. I obviously included Ben, but an amateur hadn't won it in forever. So, I do think we've got the next Bobby Jones with us. But
it'd be a great way to get an exemption.
I mean, if he wins it, they got to let him in the rest of the stuff, right?
Besides all the big names, I like Jason Day this week. Hits it high, good putting. I'm a fan of Ricky, so I'm kind of rooting for him a little bit too. Swinging it nice. And Corey Connors hits a piss ton of greens. Been playing all right. Maybe coming off a Canadian win in the RBC. Pump him up a little bit.
Corey Connors didn't win the Canadian.
No, but a Canadian won. So we're rolling with another Canadian.
Well, I knew Nick won, but I didn't. And I get they're both Canadian, but
I think I'm going to use piss ton in a story.
Do it. It's a piss ton.
We're writing so much content here. Those were great picks, Jackson.
I had to go off the wall after everybody picked all the big names,
You could have just gone in line with everybody picking big names. Guys, Elar, first of all, thanks for hosting us this week here. Fantastic house. We haven't even gotten to the top floor yet. I didn't even know there was one. But HD, always a pleasure. Matthew, thanks for coming over, joining us for dinner. We're going to tape another one here, though, after I reload this wine. Brady, what can I say about you other than you've lost 100 pounds and you look better than anything I've ever seen, and you're a great teacher. JP, thanks for putting up with me. Jackson, keep it real. We'll be back next week. I hope you enjoyed this edition of The Tour Coach and this conversation that we brought to you about playing, learning, and teaching the game of golf. We'll be back next week with another edition of The Tour Coach. In between now and next week, make sure you follow us on our social channels. You can always find me at The Dew Sweeper on Instagram, or go to our YouTube page where you'll see a scene and a video from my teachings daily on our YouTube channel. You can find that by looking up Tony Ruggiero and the Dew Sweepers on YouTube. Until then, make sure you follow and check out Everything Tour Coach and all our sponsors, Srixon Cleveland Golf, Bushnell, Vineyard Vines, and Buick GMC. I'll be back next week to help all of us appreciate, learn, and enjoy the game of golf.